My question is, what are your ideas about black triangles? And the reason I ask this is because back in 1997, I saw like 6 black triangles. They didn't have lights on them, but it made our house shake. It was about a 63 hertz frequency at about 260 beats per minute. And I never reported it, but other people that were on the major highway reported it to MUFORC or MUFON, and they saw them as floating rocks. But over our house, they were triangles or delta-shaped aircraft.
So how large were they? Because there seem to be 2 types. There's a small type, which is the size of the Cessna, and then there's this very large thing that is the size of this room, essentially.
No, I want to say like I might be incorrect, but about maybe dime shape if I held out my arms. And there was cloud cover, but they didn't. I live near Houston and right near George Bush International Airport, so I see planes landing in there. But these triangles were moving like on an equatorial axis, and hovering, but that in making that type of frequency. And I wanted to figure out what that sound I heard was, and I put a function generator through my speaker system, and that frequency will cause a house to shake.
Well, what you did is very interesting. I haven't heard of other cases with sound, but I have some colleagues who've certainly looked at that. You've heard of Mr. Bigelow and the studies that he financed. In the 90s, the group did build up a catalog of large, mostly black triangles in the US, and there is no question people have seen that. There is a fairly recent case in France with people took a picture, but the picture was blurred by the lights along the road. But this was over a nuclear plant, not an army, depot of nuclear stuff, but just an electrical plant. France has a number of nuclear generators, and those places are obviously guarded, and there's a fence around it. These 2 people were workers who were finishing road work, fixing the road, and this was the end of the day, so it was already dark, and they saw this very large black object with lights. So it's not trying to hide itself, it's got lights on the apex, of the triangle, and flying over the facility slowly and just going on its way. Now the facility obviously has cameras and security systems, but they are along the fence, they are not looking up, so they didn't detect anything. But this was reported to the French Space Agency, and we looked into the case. I'm a member of that group that looks at the unexplained cases, and we really couldn't come up. I mean, there's no question. I saw this. It's too bad we don't have the picture, but we believe them, and we really don't know what that thing was. It didn't harm anybody. It didn't cause any failure of the equipment or anything else. But there is no question there were hundreds of observations over the U.S., mostly over certain corridors, apparently. But it's a mystery. So there are two ways you can come away from this. One is to say, well, there is some secret weapon they've been working on. They've been working on for 30 years. Come on, I mean, why are we paying for this? It would be deployed somewhere, or it would, if it's a strategic, device of some sort, we would be using it somewhere, and people would be reporting it, you know, certain areas, and that's not happening. On the other hand, it's not your typical UFO either, and it's not hiding either. It's in plain sight with lights, flying slowly. So how can we get our arms around that? You know, that's the frustration of this business. Yes.